Hello, friend. Welcome to the Happy Family Club. We're delighted to have you join us. Our mission is to help you have a happier, stronger family. We do that by bringing you the world's greatest experts in family, marriage, parenting, and relationships. We interview them to discover their secrets, their strategies, their techniques, and bring them to you so that you can cherry pick exactly what you need right now to have more success and more joy in your family.
And if you enjoyed this interview, we encourage you to share it with your friends and your family and come on to the happyfamilyclub.com and see if you can find more information that's going to help you and your family be happier.
Again, thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the interview. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Happy Family Club podcast. We are so excited to have you here today. And what an awesome treat we have with our latest guest expert. And I'm actually going to let Margie introduce you, Marielle. So fire away, babe.
Marielle Melling, we're so happy that you're with us. Thank you for joining us. Marielle is a parenting expert. Mother of 5, that makes you an expert just in and of itself.
Right?
That's right. And she's got her personal experience that she's mixing with her professional background in health education and holistic health coaching to bring so much more to the table of parenting and helping us understand how to juggle the chaos that happens in all those different roles that we play as parents. And
so is there chaos in parenting? Every now and then, right?
But I love how Marielle has created these effective systems to help us, find a lot of more peace and just influence the mindset that we have in regards to parenting and our children. And
I love the name of her brand or her site, Loving Life with Littles, right?
Yeah. That's
awesome.
Right.
So many parents complain about their little ones, and it's a fast time that goes like that, and it's a beautiful time. So your title's spot on. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's great. It's wonderful. I love that. And just all the resources that she has are amazing as we've been going through and reviewing them, the newsletters and her book. Her book is Peace Amidst the Mayhem, right? Yeah. Yeah, love that. That's a great title. And it just helps parents to simplify their lives and really focus on what is the most important. And so we just really appreciate you being with us, Marielle, and look forward to your words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. So I would love to hear your insights on happy families. But before we dive into that, I love hearing the background and the reason why people do what they do. And because we talked a little bit before we hit the record button, and it's just like, it's not every day that people wake up and are like, I'm going to change the world and impact thousands of families and be a mom expert, or parenting expert.
That's not how it goes. No, it's not for me.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and your reasons why. I mean, what got you to where you're at right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So many years ago, it was a really a busy time, I would say, for my family. I had a lot of responsibilities at that time. We had 4 kids. I was pregnant with our 5th. My husband was working really insane hours away from home for our family. So the home, the meals, everything was on me. And besides business and responsibilities, we had a lot of other family challenges. I was working 4 part-time jobs, trying to juggle that. And in the midst of all of these things, I was working on this thing, and it kind of just like dawned on me in this moment of clarity, like, I have so much peace right now with my life. Like, I love my life. And from the outside looking in, that's probably not, what people would assume at that point in our lives. And I just started thinking about this and realizing this is not for me. Like, what I'm experiencing right now is not just for me. I need to share this. And so I started really researching, diving deep, finding, for example, a dear friend whose husband had just passed away from cancer and left, they had 3 little kids at the time. Another woman whose husband left her with the kids, and then their home was taken out by a tornado. And all of these situations that were far more difficult than what I was going through. And these individuals were still experiencing this really deep sense of peace. And it became so clear to me that peace has so much to do with what is going on inside of us. rather than what is outside of us. And so that's kind of where, the start of where we have come today, it started there, and then it has grown into how do we help parents simplify in a way that they can access that peace and that they can feel that through every stage. Because like you said, I believe life is way too short not to find joy in every season of life.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we started, and then we've grown a lot since then. I've learned a lot since then, but that's where we come from.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful place. Sorry. And it's awesome that you recognize that you had that peace. And I wonder, I really wonder kind of what was the precipitating thing that drove you to start sharing that? Because a lot of people experience awesome stuff, but they don't feel compelled to share it. And I just wonder what was going through your mind then to start this crazy adventure.
Yeah. So it was,
You had a few things going on at the time before that.
yeah. Well, and what is crazy to me is that I think part of it was a calling, right? You don't have all of that on your plate and then decide that now's the time to write your book without a deeper sense of like, now's the time to write your book, right?
Yeah.
So part of that was a definite, what I felt was a calling, that, like I said, this wasn't meant for me. And my responsibility and my joy was going to be to share that with other people, and that I needed to do it right now because I was in the mayhem. I was in so many ways. I was living it out right then. I realized this till after, but had I waited 2 or 3 years, a lot of that mayhem had reached its conclusion, right? And so I was able to really lay the foundation and put so much into writing and start creating these courses and things in the middle of what parents were actually going through with me. And so I think that was a piece of it. And the other part I'm going to say was my mom. My mom was like, you need to do this. She's like, this is something you can do. You have the skill set to do this. You need to pursue this. So
that's awesome.
Those are I guess the two, like, why now?
Good for listening for your mom. That's good. We should always listen to our mothers, right?
There you go.
So fun. Well, I love that you also felt a calling. You felt higher purpose behind that. And we have found with so many of the experts that we've dealt with that I think especially right now in today's world that has there's so many stressors for families and for parents. We interviewed someone before and they said that the infant mortality rate is rising because moms are struggling so hard with financially, socially, emotionally, and just
everything,
and their health. And it's sad, right? And there's all these other stressors that are going on. And I think that God is really reaching out to a number of people and saying, look, other people need help and you've got the ability to do it. So go. And so anyway, so thank you for responding to that prompting, that push from inside from the Lord to just do more, because we've looked, there's lots of families who've been blessed because of what you're doing. So it's really cool. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about happy families and finding that peace and that joy in the midst of chaos. What's something that we can do to get to that spot?
Yes. So my tagline is parenting life simplified. And so as I have really tried to do that, right, like pare it back, like, okay, what do families really need right now? What do I really need right now? What were the things that actually made a difference for me in my craziest times? And I continually come back to the same thing over and over and over and over. And that is, it's backed by decades of research. It's backed by scripture. It's backed by the wisdom leaders in every religion. And that is that our relationships matter most. And we do a lot of things really well when it comes to relationship, especially in parenting. I think that our parents love their children so well. Like I am constantly amazed at what parents are willing to do for their children. And at the same time, I think there's still a lot of room for us to grow as far as how we spend our time and what we let into our lives, and how do we love in a way that our children understand it as far as their emotional development goes and their individual needs and things like that. But at the heart of it, it is becoming a parent who can continually come back to what I care about most right now is my relationship with my kid, because there is so much that we could care about, right? I mean, from the day to day, like I got to get food on the table and I need to like clean up and have a semblance of, sanity around here and all those things, to the deeper, maybe more challenging things like resentment or, childhood wounds and all those kinds of things. And so a lot, like everything what we do comes back to being able to be in relationship better.
Yeah. So, by the way, Margie and I wholeheartedly, emphatically agree. It's amazing because the relationships, our relationship with God, our relationship with each other, our relationship with our children, it impacts everything that goes on inside of our life. You're so spot on with that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So, this simplifying it down to that, what are some practical ways that we can actually, first of all, I want to start with the practical thing of the simplifying part of your tagline, right? Because we know to focus on, but shoveling stuff off and simplifying down. Saying no is not easy.
It's not.
especially again, there's so many wonderful things in our world. I mean, we live at a time never before. There's been so many opportunities for us and for our children to grow and get knowledge and have personal growth and greater, everything. It's just amazing. So good, better, best. Where do you focus? What's your insight on that simplification process?
Yes, that is such a good question. So there's a lot of things that can go into that. If I'm looking at kind of the general big picture, like I think I need to simplify, right?
Yeah.
I think it's really helpful for us as big-hearted parents to recognize, like you just said, there are good, better, and best. And if I spend all my time doing good and never get to the best, I'm missing out.
Yeah.
Right. And my children are missing out. And so it gets down to, and this is what I realized in that really hectic time of life, is it is ruthless prioritization in a sense that I have to come to peace with what I'm doing right now. And what I often tell parents, because we have this mom guilt, right? Like it's real. I think that there's a dad guilt as well. And I know that there is dad guilt as well, but we've termed it mom guilt. This sense that I can never do enough, this sense that whatever I'm doing, it's not enough. I'm not enough. When my kid messes up, it's my fault. I don't sign up for the parent teacher association. It's so heavy. And so what I often encourage parents to do is to say, look at what you are doing. Look at the things you are doing. Go through those things and say, is this the best? Is this a best? Is this a best? If the things that I'm doing feel good, if they're aligned with what I feel is best for my family, then you let go of all the rest.
Yeah.
Right? And if you look at something and you go, this isn't the best. I don't like arguing. I don't like, 50,000 hours away from home because we don't have time for that home. I don't like whatever it is. That's where we make shifts. And so then we say, I feel like, so I'll often ask parents, like, where is your pain point? Where are you feeling frustration? Where are you feeling angst? Where are you feeling not at peace about your parenting life? And if it's something as simple as, let's say, cleaning, right? Like, my house is always a mess. I never have time to organize like I want. We'll just like talk about the way things are. And then we say, okay, what is the bare minimum that you would go to bed and feel like, I did a good job cleaning today?
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't have that as a society. We are constantly reaching for more. We are constantly, in fact, we went to this really great event the other night and I was talking to my dad and he said, this event has been going on for years. And for many years, the event coordinators were trying to like one up themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like every year they had to add something new and every year it had to grow a little bit. And at some point it got ridiculous. Like there was so much time and money going into it when the purpose of the event was met years before that. Mm-hmm. And so the leaders in a very wise way said, let's draw it back. What is the purpose and how do we do that? And so with parents, that's what I like to encourage us. What is the purpose of keeping a clean home? Yeah. Right. It's not too much to ask to have a clean home, even with little kids. Right? But what is the purpose of that thing? What is the purpose of your kids doing after school activities? because I think it's great if you have the means to provide some of those things. What is the purpose of, go back to ask yourself, really, why are we doing this? And then at what point could that bare minimum be met? And if you want more than the bare minimum, you can get there, but start with that. Start with that.
Awesome. So,
Good.
yeah.
Such a good point.
I mean, it's really what you're talking about. It seems to be this focus of, okay, look at our life. And I think really at the core of it, it's making this decision about what is our priority and what are our core values, and bumping that up against the activity and saying, is this the best activity to meet those values, those, criteria?
Mhm.
And if not, I love this about like, okay, now I have permission to just let it go.
Let it go.
It's like, you remember,
there's a really great quote we like about, if you put God first, then everything else will fall into place or just fall out of your life, And I've always thought, it's okay if things just kind of fall out, even if they're good things. It's okay to just let some things go and focus on what's the very most important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know when we were young, married. Well, yeah, we were pretty young. We had 5 children at the time. 4.
Yeah, our oldest was 6.
Yeah. So okay, so we had 6. Okay, so we had a bunch, we had some children, but we felt new, young, married, right? Anyway, long and the short of it is, we started getting to that age. We were looking around. It was like, oh, to be good parents, like our daughter, she's got to play violin, and she needs to do ballet, and she's got to do piano lessons, and she ought to be. Her brother wants to do some sports, so they ought to be in sports together, and then he wants to be in running, and their 5-year-old the t-ball, and we
started all those things.
We started all of it, and
it was crazy.
It was crazy, and not that there's anything wrong with those, but then we started multiplying that because we still wanted more children. We thought, okay, if we just multiply this even by 6,
right?
Okay, now we're gonna lose our minds, like, and the guilt. And it was like, it was kind of hard to let that stuff go because we were like, oh.
We had to do, like you said, simplify and say, okay, why are we doing this? What is the purpose?
Right.
And what do we value as the Boswell family? And what are we going to put priority first?
Yeah.
And then let everything else go, which we did.
Just out of curiosity, do you have, any of your resources, do you have like a workflow to move people through that decision-making process? Because I think it's hard for people to make. It's like, well, what is my priority? And it's kind of dissecting.
Self-inspection.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I have, I call it the APE process for creating home systems that work. And when I think about systems, the thing that is really powerful about systems, and why I keep coming back to this, is we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Right. And when we're tired, and when we are, strapped for time, all those kinds of things, what is going to last are our habits, are our systems. When I'm away, what are my kids going to do? They're right now doing the systems that we have in place, right? Yeah. That's the norm. So it's really powerful when we intentionally create these systems that align with our values. And so this process walks people through, number one, appreciating where you are.
Yeah.
It's so easy for us to, as humans, like, we are wired to notice the negative. And as parents, to, again, go to that not good enough place. So number one, we appreciate where we are, and we appreciate what's going well, and we appreciate the opportunity that we have to choose, because we live, like, number one, a culture and an age and a stage where we have so much opportunity. And number two, as humans, we have opportunity to choose, right? We have that agency, and just sitting in that and being like, I am not a victim.
Yeah.
Right? I have choices. I can say no if I want. I'm doing these things because I want a family, because I chose children, right? Like, finding that place, starting from there, is really powerful. So we have some questions that kind of help people work through that. And then second, we look at the plan. We're going to plan, what is the system going to look like? And that starts with simplifying some of those key questions. What's the bare minimum? Do I actually have to do this? Like, did we even ask that question? Right? Or am I just doing this because my parents did it, or because my neighbor's doing it, or because some expert on Instagram said I should do it? Or, so do I actually have to do this? Is there a way to do this once and not do it again? So when it comes to home maintenance and things like that, there is so much that we can make automatic, or set up the system one time and not have to make those decisions over and over again, things like that. And then I'm going to plan actually like, how is this system going to work out? And we look at how do habits develop. We have our cue, our routine, our reward. So a lot of times we don't intentionally put rewards in place. See that a lot. Like we just expect everybody to do it because it sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
And like that's hard to follow through on, right? For more than 3 hours or 3 days. So we have a process of saying, okay, this is what I want to include in it. This is what it's going to look like. We pull from other people, right? Somebody who looks like they've got that figured out. I'm going to go learn from them. I don't need to reinvent everything, right? I ask my kids, especially the older they are, I ask my spouse, like, what does this look like for you? What are your ideas? What would motivate you? What do you think is important here? We get some buy-in from everybody. We put a plan in place. And then our E is to actually execute that thing, to try it for 2 weeks and say, okay, was this worth it? How did it go? And then we can refine that process and go back again.
I love that process. I love the reward part.
Yeah, right?
I years ago, I worked with a guy and then studied a book. He had a book, his name's Kunran. He had a book called The Game of Work, which was such a fascinating concept. And so I got my early business successes were all based on setting time frames on something and then a reward for getting it done. And there's simple stuff. It was like, I get a bowl of ice cream, or I chase Margie around the house and give her a kiss, or we go on a walk together, or I play a board game with the kids. Like, it didn't have to be like this, huge, expensive thing.
Right. It's not a big vacation. It doesn't have to be monetary. Yeah. It's just something that feels like fun or feels like joy or feels like,
Yeah. And it was nice when business started going better. The rewards did get a little bit bigger on some of them. All right, that's fine.
We often forget like play is an innate human need, right? We need that. Like, so I love that you incorporated that into.
Well, and I love that you've got that baked in your system. I hadn't thought of that for a while, and it's so important, especially people listening. It's like, two things that you've talked about that I think are so powerful. Number one is it's like, start with the joy of where you're at. Like, what are you doing good? And how is it benefiting you and your family? How does it meet goals that you had at one point? It's like we have volunteered for this. I wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
And it's good to start with remembering that, and then, so that's an endorphin hit right there. I mean, it's like, oh, that's cool.
It is, right? Gratitude is our instant.
And then I love how you've got the baked in rewards along the way as you execute stuff and review them. And then it's like, oh, let's have joy in this. We tried something, and even if it failed, it's like we had the courage to do something different. We're in the hunt of trying to make our family better, and look, we're doing it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So when you get that system down, I got another question for you here.
Sure.
So you look at those priorities and you get that down. How do you get buy-in from family members, right? Because especially, let's just take the scenario of, there's two different scenarios there. One is you've got younger children who, we figured out, it's like we could teach our children when they were super young, like 2 and 3, how to sort silverware. But getting them to buy in on it on a regular basis took a little bit of psychological manipulation. No, it's the wrong word. Persuasion, right? Encouragement, consistency. And then you move up the ladder, and then you've got teenage children still in the house.
Yes.
Well, that's a whole nother ball of wax. Like, so what's your thoughts on getting buy-in on some of these systems as you start making some changes to bring more peace to the family?
Yeah, that's a huge and really important question. And as you've nailed on the head, it is going to really depend on what stage our children are in. The overriding principles are going to be the same, though. Number one, it starts with our relationship, right? And I don't just say that because it's simpler, because it's easier, because we already said that. Like, that is genuinely what makes people care about what you have to say.
Yeah.
And so if we have a relationship in place, and so I'll start with younger kids because they're the easiest. You just do it together. You just do it together, right? Just part of what you do as a family. You just start, whether that thing is, hey, we're going to clean up after we play a game, or we are going to help our neighbors, or we are going to be lifelong learners, whatever that thing is that's important to you, you just do it together as a family. And it becomes something that they see. that they hear, and that they do, right? See, hear, and do. And that's super easy because we really control our children's environments.
Yeah, right.
As they get older, it's those same principles, but we need to take into account, what does that look like for this individual? And typically that means asking them, right? Hey, it is so important to me as a family that we have a home that everybody feels comfortable in. Okay, for me, that includes being able to walk through a room without tripping on stuff. What does that include for you? Right?
Minor details. Yeah,
Yeah, minor details. And I promise, like, parents who like you who say like, my kids don't talk to me, that's okay. When you ask, they're thinking about it. When you ask, they're saying, hey, maybe she actually cares, especially if you let it be quiet, or if you say, let me know when you think of something, if you don't fill in the blank for them. They're saying, oh, my mom and dad really do care about what I think. And they're thinking about it, and they'll bring it up later if they care about it. We create that environment where their input is wanted, right? When we do that, human nature, when it's our idea, we care about it more. We're more likely to do it. We're more likely to follow through, right? So that's the easiest way to get buy-in, is to help it be your kid's idea. So you bring everybody together, say, this is what's important to me, what's important to you. What does that look like for you? What could that be? What are, like we said, what feels like it would be rewarding for that? All those kinds of things. And then we try to be really consistent, because that is how we build our muscle memory. That's how we build habit. That's how we build skill sets, is we need that repetition. And then a third piece of that is, I would say, and this is especially true when it comes to, let's say we want to, make service a part of our family value, right? But we are playing to our kids' strengths. So we all have things that we're good at. We all have things that we're working on. And it's often easy for us as parents, I would say, especially with the oldest child, to recognize, like, where are our kids lacking? Like, what do they need? Right.
Yeah.
But the more that we say, hey, this kid is really good at being efficient, or this kid is really good at connecting with older people, or this kid is really good at helping with younger kids. All of our kids don't have to do everything every single time. And if we let them play to their strengths and let them grow in that, and then maybe make an invitation that extends that just a little bit, and it could be as simple as, this one kid is always in charge of taking care of the other kids because they're good at that and they enjoy that. And we recognize that as a meaningful contribution. And then we say, once a week, will you clean the bathroom? Or once a week, it's okay for things to look different for different kids.
Yeah.
And the more we understand them and their strengths and play to those strengths, and help our kids really, like, how many of us want to hang out in the things that we're bad at all day? Like, we don't choose that for our career. We don't choose, like, that's not kind. And yet so many of our kids, we put them into schools where it's maybe not a good fit. And then at home, we're asking them to do these things. And so instead, if we can say, find their strengths, let them be in that, and then extend invitations to build on that.
I love that.
That's
awesome.
Great.
It makes me think of, it's like you see some kids and they go and they just excel at math, and then others are terrible at math. But we live in an environment where it's like, look, you have to conform with the full set of criteria.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're a loser. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but I was so blessed to be able to memorize my times tables, my 12 by 12 grid.
Right.
And
big for you, Josh.
and then that took me about 3 years in elementary school. And that's about the last I've addressed math in my whole life. Right? And so, it was like, wow, I'm so glad I got through that, because I can do addition, subtraction, division. Yeah, I don't know, but multiplication, I got my 12 by 12, so. And I don't feel like a loser for it. I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that is a great perspective for us to help our kids see, right? Yeah. Like, what we want for them are skill sets that allow them to succeed. That doesn't mean that they have to be good at everything, contrary to what, like, this even college pressure. I mean, I've talked to people who are worried about their second graders' chances of getting into college, and they need to have a well-rounded transcript. I'm like, no, you're okay. You're okay. Like, there's a lot of pressure on us. And again, that idea to let go and say, okay, what really matters here?
Yeah.
What really matters is my child learning how to be kind? Is my child learning how to handle failure? Is my child learning how to pursue goals, how to work hard, like how to care about other people and other things, and then do what it takes to get there? Not do they have to be good at everything?
Yeah, totally. So I love that individualized approach. So wise.
So great.
It's so good. Side funny note. Um, Again, I forget how many children I had, but at one point, well, multiple points, but at one particular point, we had 3 in diapers. And
Bless you, bless you, bless you.
anyway, but our 5th child has a really dominant personality, and he just loves to be in charge of stuff. And when you're the 5th in a family of strong-willed children, that's a tough spot, right?
Right.
Never get a chance to lead.
To be in charge. Yeah.
So Margie came up with this brilliant idea to put him in charge of 2 things: diapers. So he monitored all 3 diapers and changed them and made sure they were handling. And he was how old at the time?
He was 7 or 8.
7 or 8. And then he was also put in charge of monitoring laundry. So he kept track that laundry baskets were done and that people got their laundry done. And
he loved being in charge.
He didn't care that it was diapers and laundry. It was like, oh, I get the combination.
Tell everyone what to do. Great.
But I think that what you're talking about there is just being aware of our children and allowing them to, have input and do things where they're strong. Now, but that's a side tangent on something that I want to go back to. But thank you for bringing that up. I just wanted to emphasize that because, oh my goodness, I think as parents, and maybe you'll agree, but I think as parents, when we recognize our children's strengths and we give ourselves and them permission to play into those strengths and drop the other stuff, I think that's a key point of bringing peace into the family and in developing our relationship with them.
Yes. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's okay to ask our kids to do hard things, to go outside of their comfort zone. Like we absolutely need to. I was actually just talking about this recently. Like we have a society that doesn't necessarily require that anymore, right? Like a lot of us have the capacity to provide really well for our children or to, meet their needs, provide all the opportunities they want. And so sometimes we have to be intentional about inviting them outside of their comfort zone or, teaching them to work or teaching them to earn. And so it's okay to do those things, but it's almost like a proportions game, right? Like the majority of our time and our effort and our focus is on what is going well. It's the old John Gottman's 5-to-1 rule, right? Like in strong relationships, we have 5 positive to every 1 negative. It's not that the negative's not there. It's not that we in any way think anybody is perfect or anything like that, right? But we put so much more into what's going well and into the positive. I speak with a lot of teenagers who tell me like, you know what, my parents don't even notice all the good things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like I do a lot. I show up to class. I work hard. And instead all they can talk about is this one thing that is bugging them or bothering them. And that's the way it feels to a lot of our kids, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. If we can sit in that space more, it's going to do more good for our kids.
Yeah. And I like the caveat there, or the addition of, we let them play to their strengths, doing hard things. And even sometimes when it's not in their strengths, it's okay for them to grow and learn new stuff. I mean, I wrapped my head around, geometry for a little bit in high school. I passed the class and I hated it, but you know what? It was okay. I figured it out. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's come back to, actually, is there anything else you want to say about strengths? Because that's a really important topic. And then I got another question.
That's a good question. One other thing that came to mind, I think it's a fundamental human need, is this idea that I matter.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I matter, that I'm here for a purpose, that it matters to other people what I do and who I am and how I show up. And I think that we do that for our kids when we let their contributions matter, whether that is, in the way that they serve, or like your son, like knowing, look, if I don't do the diapers, this thing gets lost, right? This doesn't happen. And
it's a mess if you get 3 diapers going. Yeah.
All day.
You got to make sure those are handled. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that helping our kids know that they matter, because they do, is one of our vital tasks as parents. And that's one way that we've just talked about, is helping them play to their strengths. And that's where a lot of fulfillment in their life is going to come, is putting those strengths to use for other people. Another piece of that, and I don't know what your next question is, if you want to go there or not, but is just that quality time that's one-on-one, that helps them know, I know you, I see you as one person, especially for all of us in big families, right? I care about you as a person, and I like you. I like being with you. So when we put that one-on-one, a system for that into our routine as well, that's really powerful.
That's awesome. It is so powerful. I was able to serve for a number of years, almost 2 decades in various church leadership positions. And I had an opportunity to counsel with and visit with a lot of youth. And I remember visiting one day with a young lady from a good sized family. I think they had 7 or 8 children. And and we were talking about some serious struggles you're going through. And she made the comment, she said, I don't remember one time ever spending one-on-one time with either of my parents. And she was 18. And I was like, I had to really wrap my head around that. You know, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like, wow, really? And I saw the struggle that she had. By contrast, I've seen others that have had just, you know, parents have made great effort to spend that quality time with their children, and it's impacted them significantly. So what you're saying, I mean, I've seen it play out in super powerful, real ways with children, and then later with adults, right? Awesome. And you're super intuitive, because my next question was going to be, share some more insights on this relationship thing. I mean, this is everything's in the relationship container so far, even though we've ran into rabbit trails. But, I would love to hear some more elements of what constitutes a strong relationship and how we get there.
Absolutely. So I teach what I call the hand method for strong relationships. So the thumb is like the me actions. Number one is the parent. I need to figure out me, right? Am I bringing wounds from my childhood? That's very common. Am I afraid? Am I doing things in a way that's not purposeful, but possibly focused on me instead of my child's needs? You know, we see that popping up sometimes. Am I feeling loved? Am I feeling fulfilled? Because when I am coming from a place that is rested, that is whole, that is healthy, that is connected with God, how much easier is it for me to be patient and to be loving and to like do all these things that I really want to do as a parent? So that is one piece of it, is giving ourselves, recognizing that as crazy as life is, and this is the number one thing that I recommend for parents if they're not already doing it, is some daily quiet one-on-one time with God. And for parents, people who aren't Christian, it's still that daily quiet time where you're connecting with your priorities, where if you meditate, you're meditating. If you pray, you pray. If you're learning and saying, I have no idea what to do about this kid, you're giving yourself a chance to actually learn about that kid, like to study, right? To say, this is what brings me joy. I know it brings me joy. So many of our parents have lost touch with what brings joy. And so that's the thumb, is like taking care of me and understanding me better. Do you want to talk about each one, or do you want me to run through them all?
You better run through them all, because I'll run down rabbit trails and you'll get stuck on number 1. And then it'll be like, then we'll never get there.
But I want to hear also the other 4. So let's hear it. Yes.
Okay. So the second one, the pointer finger, is understanding our kids better. And that is like from a developmental perspective, because a lot of times what our kids are going through is very normal, is very natural, is very healthy, and we don't get it. So we freak out about it. I would say that's particularly true with our toddlers and teens, where they have really a lot of brain growth happening during those stages. And it's a shift from where they were before.
I will interject a comment there. I saw, I'd never seen it quantified, but I saw an amazing study showing the number of emotions that a child is physically able to experience versus what a teenager is. And I get the numbers wrong, but it's like 8 versus 86 or some crazy thing. And it's like
amazing, right?
Like, wow. I mean, just parts of their brain develop. It's like all of a sudden now, a whole new set of hormones, chemicals, synaptic gap stuff firing. It's like, oh, you now go from, 8 or 10 emotions that you can experience, period,
Yes.
to over 80. And it's like, oh, no wonder your brain's going hog wild, right? It's like, oh, got it.
Right.
And it's
And
normal.
it's totally normal. And
Cool.
what is the process to figure out again, oh, this is like the first time I'm feeling this or thinking about this emotion or experiencing this? Like that can be scary for our teens, right? And then that adds to the stress. Like, I don't even understand what's going on with me. Like, why am I so emotional? Why is this so big? So when we understand developmentally what's happening, it lets us like take a deep breath. Like, this is a good thing. This is allowing them to transition from, like, this is the analogy I usually use, like from that simple, our kids who show up on the playground and they're best friends in 5 minutes to a really complex and really fulfilling relationship. And that's what we want for them, right? But they need that social maturity. And a lot of that happens in the specializing that happens in their brain during adolescence. So part of that understanding them is understanding the developmental stage that they're in, and then also understanding them, understanding their perspective. And then this is a huge piece of it, is helping them feel really comfortable being themselves.
Yeah.
We know from research that one of the greatest times, and this is like our relationship again, right? It's all about relationship. One of the best times that we find that we strengthen our bonds is when we're in a bad place.
Yes.
Then that we see who we can count on, right? It's then that we can see who's going to be there when I'm grumpy or mad or angry, or, when everybody else seems to have forgotten me, or during those hard times, that's who we build strong bonds with. And so we help our kids see, no matter what mood you're in, no matter agree with me or disagree, I often say, like, you protect your child's dissenting opinion, right? Like you protect whatever they are, whoever they are. This is a safe place for you to be you. So that's our pointer finger, focusing on our kids.
Cool. Self and child. Good.
Yep. Self, kids. Number 3 is a tall man is what's most important. And that is just continually bringing it back to the connection, to the relationship. And I usually in this part talk about like when it's hard to do that. So in those moments of discipline, in those moments of I've lost it emotionally, in those moments of burnout, that's when it's like most important to bring it back to connection.
Oh, I want to get a doctorate on. I want to get a doctorate on that particular thing, because I'm the master at losing it and escalating stuff. So, so we'll have to talk about that part a little bit later. So go ahead.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay. The 4th one is a little bit of a stretch, but it totally works for me because it's the ring finger. And so I had just imagined that my ring is a watch, and it's all about quality time. It's arranging our lives to have quality time. And that's where those systems come into play, where simplifying comes into play, where ruthless prioritization comes into play, learning how to say no, learning how to let go of guilt, learning how to let go of people pleasing. A lot of the things that we do as parents, I believe, are coping mechanisms. When we say yes, it's trying to support that I matter question, right? Yeah. And so if I have to prove that I matter, it's really hard to say no to other people.
Yes.
Right. Yep. But if I am sitting in that place where I know that I matter, I have clarity about what the Lord wants from me, and it's not everything.
Yeah.
It's everything that I have. It's not everything. It's everything I have. And so when I sit in that place, that kind of gives me the power to say no to these lesser things. So a part of that is mindset, and a part of that is our nuts and bolts and figuring out more effective ways to do things and all that, but prioritizing that quality time together.
That's awesome. Well, the question about mattering, I mean, I really relate to that. In fact, I think I've spent about $150,000 on coaches getting to that understanding. I could have just had this call with you, but I could have given you 20,000 and been way ahead of the game.
I'm going to take that.
But
Not too late.
I didn't I grew up not understanding that. I mean, I really thought it was like my value was based on how much money I was making for the family, what I was contributing to society, how I was, serving in church callings and positions, how many friends I had, making sure they were happy if I did something, the food I cooked for them. I mean, the list goes on and on of all this stuff. It's like, well, all of that is my worth, right? And it was interesting marrying Margie, because Margie is one of the individuals. Can I brag about you for a second? Sure, I can. So Margie Margie's one of those individuals that just has a super deep, secure understanding. And a lot of this is credit to her parents, but it's like, oh, my value is infinite and unchangeable. I'm just like a worthy, super amazing person. And that's just the reality of it. No questions asked, right? And so it's been so refreshing to deal with her because I came from the world where it's like value is always connected to performance. And Margie came from a world where value is connected to essence, just because she was a daughter of God. Done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's been fascinating trying to get me going from mentally to emotionally. And I think there's a lot of parents that deal with this, right?
Absolutely.
And it's a crazy struggle. And I'm not exaggerating when I talk about how much I've spent on coaching and counseling to get to that spot. But it's like, and I say the number because it's very hard. And I wrestle with it still sometimes. It's like, oh, I didn't close this big deal or this happened or that happened. I must be a terrible person. I have to remind myself, it's like, oh, hold on. No, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no, that's not. So anyway, thank you for me on that. And the quality time is so powerful because it communicates. What I hear you saying is that it communicates to our loved ones that, oh, actually, we love you. We want to spend time with you, and holding that safe space for them and defending their position to be them is really powerful. So, Marielle, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to add one thing too, because I see this field of parenting is that if we haven't already figured this out, it extends to our children, and our children's behavior becomes a measure of our worth and a measure of our success.
Yeah.
And then it gets really messy because instead of worrying about the relationship, we're worrying about their behavior and we're worrying about their success. And this is often subconscious. This is often, I'm not intentionally doing this, but it pops up. So it's really big.
So is this why, I mean, I'm just speculating with you for a minute. You probably have deeper insight on this research, but is this why we see, say you've got a parent, we use a dad, for example, that was, played football in high school, wanted to play college ball, didn't
make it.
And so now his oldest son is like, they just ride herd on him to play. And I'm thinking out loud, but it seems like to me, like maybe they're just saying like, if I was never good enough to play, but if my kid is, then I have value. Right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think it's twofold. I think sometimes it's that, and it is that deep-seated, that vital question, do I matter? And it's playing it out through our children because we feel like our children are an extension of us, right? They came from us, they're one with us. We give them everything we have, our literally blood, sweat, and tears. And it does feel like their success is our success and their failure is our failure a lot of times, right? So I think it is that. And I also think it is sometimes we just lose sight. We just get so wrapped up in the emotion and the excitement that we forget, like, they're a 17-year-old kid, right? Like, this is the high school football stadium. Right. Like sometimes because emotions are powerful and big, I think that's a piece of it too, from the little moment. And then also like the big, this whole thing is exciting. This whole, what if they do that? And like, I want this for them and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so even if it's not this, even if it's sports, I mean, it's just an analogy I thought of, but even if it's not that, you're spot on in that. If our value is wrapped up in our children's behavior, you said it gets really messy.
It gets messy.
Amen to that, because newsflash, we don't actually have control over our children's actions.
I learned that real early. We learn it real early, but how long does it take to accept it?
Right. Yeah, we need a system for like accepting that our children's behavior is not attached to our values. So
yes. And I mean, you look at like the classic, kid having a tantrum in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people feel embarrassed by that.
Yeah.
But why? Why in the world would we be embarrassed that our kid is being a kid?
Right.
Right? Like that is totally developmentally normal and expected. And if not, like, we all have bad days, like, what in the world? But instead we internalize that, and we have this unstated belief that, if I was a good mom, I'd be able to control their emotions. And if I was a good mom, I'd be able to at least keep this private. Like,
right.
But no, you have worth, you have value. So
it's okay. And I actually saw this played out probably 2 days ago, and the parent, bless her. I mean, everyone's so human, but like the mom just lost it on the poor kid. It was like, that's not helping. So
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah, well, and I think, like, if you're that mom, right?
yeah,
You have this added no, it's not always, it's often triggering when our kids have big emotions because our job is to take care of them, right?
yeah, yeah,
Our job, like, we are wired to help them. And if they are, I even say, like, I think the whine is a gift of nature. Like when kids whine, it's like, "I need help," and you're like, "Ah," but it gets our attention, right? Um, Crying, all of those things. So when our kids have these big emotions, we want to soothe, we want to help, and we should, right? But that it's what the healthy way to do that is to co-regulate.
yeah,
If I am coming from a place of I'm embarrassed about this behavior, or I don't understand this, or I don't have my own emotional stability to be
mhm,
able to find my calm, even though this is triggering. Now I just want the behavior to end.
yes,
And that's my focus instead of co-regulating and being there in a healthy way to help our kids.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, I hope you have an entire course on that point you just talked about.
Co-regulating. I like that.
Getting
Yes,
yourself
yeah,
in
we
a
do.
getting yourself in a state of peace and calm, and then co-regulating. Like,
Yes, yes, we
okay,
do.
so
Okay.
what's the pinky?
So the pinky is the playful pinky. The pinky is
Oh,
the playful pinky. And we just need to have fun, right? We need to put fun into our lives. So many of us are so stressed out and burnt out, and we forget that we're created for joy.
Yeah.
And so make your family fun, make your work fun. There are times and places that we get, like, those teens. I love our teens, and I so much good and so many powerful things happening in that generation. And sometimes the parents are missing out on it
Yeah.
mm.
completely, right? Because of worries and stress. And yeah, there are hard things that are going on, but step out of that into a neutral zone and do something fun.
Yeah.
And that right there bolsters our relationship, right? Like I remember at one point thinking, and I don't know what triggered the question, but I just said, would I want to hang out with me right now if I was and it was very clearly no, I would not want to hang out
Like,
with me
oh,
right now. So we want our relationship to be a place that our kids want to be, that we want to be, and bringing purposeful play, whether it is like scheduled outings or even just playful parenting, right? Like going out the door and your 3-year-old wants to pretend to be a dog. Well, what if you got on the floor and pretended to be a dog with them? Like, what would that look like? So that's our playful pinky.
Oh,
wow,
love
so
that.
fun.
Cute.
That is awesome. And it does make such a difference when you just connect with, especially like your example of getting on the floor and playing with that 3-year-old. It is so incredibly powerful to just be down there with them. We have a new grandbaby. She came over. They were
Wow.
here for Thanksgiving, and she's almost a year old.
Mhm.
And it's amazing when they live across the country. She's not spent much time and with us physically. And when they first came over, it was like she'd like do this death stare at you, like, I don't know you.
Yeah.
What do you want with me?
Yeah.
And she was really like reticent. We just got on the floor and played with her and tickled and chased
Sing
around and
songs,
sang songs,
tossed
and
around.
she immediately was our best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a safe place. This
They
is fun.
love
I'm gonna
it.
be
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
But there's still plenty of wrestle time and tickle time and play time, even with our teenagers. It's just so, what you're talking about there is really, really powerful. In fact, um, years ago, we had some friends that they had 3 autistic children, like, um, y- like severely autistic, like really, really struggled,
Nonverbal and
nonverbal.
yeah.
And it was
Mhm.
amazing. Those parents, they brought those children from totally non-functioning to fairly functioning, and the way they did it was just spent time mimicking them in their space
Mm.
and just being with them. And it was so get my friend, his name's Mark, and it's just so incredible to watch how
Really nice.
he connected with them but did it all on their level, right? So he was
Mhm.
just playful with them. And then just interacted with them. So I've seen that power of this. It's very, very cool. So the playful pinky. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And for our kids, that is their way of learning, right? That is
Yeah.
their way of being and discovering the world and exploring in a safe place and all those kinds of things. So creating time for play with our families is a big deal. And it's fun.
And it's fun, right?
We enjoy it too. Yeah.
I'll take all the endorphins I can get.
That's right.
Healthy
That's
way,
right.
right?
Get that oxytocin going, the dopamine drops. Yep.
I'll take it any way I can get it in positive ways. So
Yep.
cool. Any other insights on? By the way, that the 5 things so powerful in relationships. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anything else on relationships that you want to share with us?
I guess that if we have an understanding of why relationships are so important, it helps us cater our lives to them. And if we think about our infants when they are born, their survival mechanisms, right? They are not given the ability to hunt. They are not given the ability to run away. And they are given the ability to attach.
Yeah.
That is how I survive. Literally, that is how I survive, is I attach with a safe other. Yeah. And that doesn't end as we get older, right? All of us, we thrive in these safe attachments. That's what the research for decades is telling us. And so when we see, like, this isn't just a matter of, I want to feel good about it. Absolutely, I want to feel good about it. But it is also the most important thing for their survival, for their well-being. If they feel like, when our children feel like they are in a safe relationship, that is the best brain environment for learning and for growth, right? The second they feel like that relationship is under attack, it becomes stressful. And now all of a sudden they're working from a place from stress, which is an entirely different brain region than those forward thinking goals and logical and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. And so when we create a relationship that feels really safe, where they feel seen, where they feel known, safe to be themselves, like we are providing for them in a way that is incredibly powerful. And I hope that comes across to our parents. And I hope that they feel like when I am there listening to their venting, I'm doing them a service, right? Yeah. When I am their calm in their storm and I say it's okay to feel all these things, I am doing them a service. Like all of those kinds of things, know that is the best gift that you can give your kids, truly, is that type of relationship and showing them what that looks like as you get older, right? It doesn't change. We still need that. And I think about the number one thing for us as a humanity is that relationship. And how powerful is it when that most important relationship is with a God the Father, who is infinitely loving, who is always there for us, right? Like every time we falter, he's the example of what it looks like to be infinitely loving, infinitely secure, infinitely safe in that relationship.
Yeah. That is beautiful. I'm not even going to try to top that. That was amazing. So I think that we ought to wrap up on that very wonderful high note. I mean, and I love this focus on relationships, and I love how you concluded with why they're so important and how we attach to people. So thank you so much for those insights. It's just really good. Now, kind of in conclusion, I guess I will ask for one other thing, and that is, I guarantee you that there's people who are like, they're struggling, they're maybe they're like me and they're looking for their self-worth somewhere in their child's behavior. Maybe they just need that calm space. They've got chaos going on. Maybe they're trying to figure out how to walk across the floor and not trip and kill themselves. Stuff, right?
Come on, kids.
Whatever it is. But how do those people go deeper into your world? And what are some resources that you have for them?
Awesome. So the easiest way to hang out with me is go through my website, which is www.lovinlifewithlittles.com, LOVIN, no G there, lovinlifewithlittles.com. And as I mentioned, we have a lot going on. And so you can kind of browse through the website and see, do I want to work on systems? Do I want to work on my personal development? Do I want to work on my relationship? Find something that speaks to you. Anytime you sign up for anything, whether it's a free class or a guide or anything like that, you'll get into my email world. And that's where you'll hear everything that's going on.
Stuff. Good.
Yeah. If you want a lot of connection and community, our Mom Spot membership is the place to get that. So
yeah. And is that Mom Spot, is that also found just in your Love and Life with Littles, or is that on a separate?
There is a link for it on Love and Life with Littles, or you can go to momspot.com.
Momspot.com.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, it would be cool. I'm not even a mom, and it'd be cool to hang out with you. So
You're invited. Our larger email community, we have lots and lots of dads. So
okay, good.
Come on in.
I don't feel this. I don't feel disappointed again. We'll send Margie. We'll send Margie over to Mom Spot. Hang out here. So.
You can hang out in the background.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'll be lurking in the background. So
yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and for all you guys listening to this. Like, obviously, Marielle has got incredible stuff here, and just strongly encourage you to go and check it out. There's things on personal development, on parenting, on systems, mom support group, like we just talked about, that membership. So all of these things are resources for you. And if you're in that spot where you need any of that stuff, obviously there's way deeper wisdom here and insights. So go check it out. That's my encouragement. So yeah. All right. Thank you again so much for your time. And, we're going to have to do this again. I got other questions for you. So.
Anytime.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.